Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are now watching and listening to Championship on the Line podcast. And today is a very special episode of our Knockout Edition. Today, we have a very special guest. We have a legend in the house. He's a former UFC, WEC veteran, and also Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, who just recently retired this year over a win over Joe Elmore. He is a legend. We're excited to have him. But not only that, he was also former Legacy FC featherweight champion and also former Ring of Fire lightweight champion. He is Leonard Bad Boy Garcia. Once
Hey,
again, man, thank you so much, man.
appreciate you guys, man. Cool introduction.
Oh, no problem. So how's life been, man? How's retirement been going for you?
Good, man. Good. I was ready for it, and just I mean, life's going on, but this fight did bring on a lot of all the retirement, everything else, all the interviews, so it was good, man. It's good to be done, but it feels good. So
That's awesome. Yeah, because I remember the last fight, it was a main event, which was awesome. You were getting the spotlight on you. It was a huge main event. And also your opponent too, which was a
yeah,
perfect partner to have in the ring because he always, is the same, is similar style as you, which just
yeah.
comes in aggressive. What was it like? The thought, the experience like for going into your last fight, but also your opponent. What was your thoughts on Elmar?
Elmore, he's a scary dude, man. It was like getting ready to fight a guy just like myself, but I had to see what his power was like, and that I think that to me was the scariest thing about it. I knew he could take damage and keep coming, but that was like the fight I always wanted. You know what I mean? I always
Mhm.
wanted a guy who wouldn't stop coming, and I wanted to test myself against somebody like that always, and he gave me that opportunity, so it was a great deal. It was good for both of us, and I think for me it was like it was nerve wracking. It was weird, but I was just ready for it, man. That I got ready to fight myself in a weird
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, I
So
remember I was watching a post. I think even your wife posted this, and she said thank you to him for coming in to fight pretty much because you always
yeah,
wanted to fight a guy like yourself.
yeah.
And you know, I watched that fight and I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is probably the best bare knuckle fight I've probably seen. Probably best bare knuckle fight of all time. It was just
Man,
two guys coming in.
yeah, it definitely it was a perfect fight to end it on because like I said, I mean, I know for sure there was a couple times that like when I hit him with the kidney shot, and I tell everybody I felt the weirdest thing when I hit him. Like I felt something, you know what I mean? Like I felt
Mm-hmm.
something in there. And he said he was peeing blood for a while after the
Oh my
fight. So
gosh.
I feel like I felt his kidney, man. It was
Oh
weird.
my god.
And I looked at him, and I could tell he was hurt. And I remember looking at him and I was like, all right, he wants out. You know what I mean? He wants to get out. He wants to get
Mm-hmm.
out. So I was like, I'm gonna turn it on now. So I went after him, man. I started turning it on. Then he like we caught eyes for a second, and I could see he wanted out. And then when he seen me, he was like, hell no, and kept coming. God dang it, dude, just go away. And I remember always thinking that. Like, I remember thinking, I bet you there's guys that fight me that are like, dang, this dude won't go away. So it was good to finally feel that from somebody else. You know what I mean? So it was
Mm-hmm.
a cool deal. And Joe definitely doesn't go away. So it was definitely a great feeling. And I think it was the best way to go out, man, because I got to live things that I always thought about. Like, man, what if I fight a guy that won't go away? What if I hit him with everything I got and he's still standing there? So I got to experience that. So it was a great feeling. Like, I mean, hats off to Joe Elmore.
Oh, absolutely. Especially, you ended on top, you retired with the win. And it
Yeah,
kind of reminds me of kind of like Gaddy versus Ward, you know?
yeah, absolutely, man. I remember, everybody was comparing us to fights, and they were like, Gaddy Ward, who was the other guy, Corrales, and
Castillo.
yeah, Castillo, and
Mm-hmm.
then one of the guys was like, man, I hope you guys all live after this fight. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, well, Gaddy passed away. Castillo, not Castillo, the other Corrales.
Corrales.
Yeah, passed away, and that's kind of a scary thing to think about. I was like, I don't like to think about things like that, you know.
Yeah.
So it's funny, man. But you know, it's definitely one of those fights that I hope people remember for a long time. And they, you know, when they sit back and watch other fights and watch guys go down and then, you know, get back up and keep fighting through it. I hope they remember our fight, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Like you just said, those two fights, they carried a legacy, and I think it's going to be for you too, especially with Bare Knuckle going on in the future. Your
Yeah.
fight's always going to be the talk, with the best fight probably of all time with Bare Knuckle.
I hope so, man. I hope so. I think
Mhm.
me and Joe deserve it. And I mean, literally, dude, I came home and I remember, you know, I'm laying there in the bed the night after the fight, swollen. My ear, I had a cut, like a small cut in my ear. I don't know how that happened. And you know, so I'm bleeding from my ear, swollen, and you know, a little bit of blood from the nose. And every time I'd spit, blood would come out because it comes out through your sinuses when you got blood in your eye. And I
Oh.
remember, you know, my wife sitting there with the Q-tip cleaning my ear, and I'm sitting there hurting, just laying there, and I'm like, this is what people don't see, you know, like what
Mhm.
we're like after the fight, like days after the fight, weeks after the fight. And I'm like, man, I hope they appreciate, you know, what we're out there doing for entertainment. You know what I mean? Like we definitely go out there and give it all we got. So it was a great feeling. And I'm watching videos as I'm sitting there of guys working head movement. And I keep thinking, like, man, thank God I just got to worry about this in sparring now, not in a fight. So it was good, man.
That's awesome. I was so happy when I knew when you announced your retirement, but then when you won too, I was like much deserving you because you've been fighting for such a very long time.
Yeah, man. 20 years.
Yeah.
Years and man, you know, it like when we do these interviews and I talk about, you know, all the fights, I think about it, and it's like every organization that I fought for the title at least one time. And I won the title in every organization except for the UFC, you know, but I fought for it. And it was like one of those things where I thought about that and I was thinking, man, you know, I fought all those years, but I fought at the top of the pretty much at the top of the class, you know, all those years. And then, you know, I had fights with Holloway, you know, all these great guys, Korean Zombie, Jens Pover, Mike Brown, you know,
Mhm.
and I look back on it now, man, you know, when you think about it in hindsight, like thinking about everything you've gone through and everything you've been through, you look at it and you appreciate it a lot more. And I was just
Mhm.
glad that I was able to keep it up, and like you said, man, to go out on top, beating the number one guy, and then stepping away. It's like I can say, you know, I walked away as number one. Like, sure, there's guys that are number one now, but on that night, I was the best guy. So
Mhm.
it was like a great tip of the iceberg, great way to go out. So I was real happy about that as well.
Oh, absolutely. It was a perfect moment. You're on top of your hand raised with, real warrior. You all bleeded up, but you came up on top. And that's one thing, Rich and I were always talking about. We've been watching you fight since, the early WEC days, and we were always a fan of your style, always coming forward, especially for me, because like I grew up watching boxing. I did a little bit of boxing. I always liked the way you always came forward and you always put the pressure, which I always liked. And every fight you had was always very exciting, and you always fought the best. It was never an easy fight. You always fought the best of the best guys out there, you
Yeah, man.
know. And with retirement, was it a difficult decision for you, or was it kind of like, what, it's time now?
So it's funny the way it played out. When I had retired the first time, of course, it was like I just had lost a love for MMA. I didn't want to grapple anymore. I just didn't want to do it. I was like, man, I'm done with this. And you know, I wanted to get away from it, but I still wanted to compete. And when Bare Knuckle happened, I got a phone call from the owner of Bare Knuckle, and he reaches out and he tells me about it. He sends me a video, and I was like, God dang it. Why did this come out now? Like I'm done, you know, like I'm not fighting anymore. I had I hadn't trained for 2.5 years, and I was like, man, I love the idea. I like thinking about everything, and I was like, man, I gotta get this to pass by my wife. You know what I mean? She's got to say yes. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of different things had to happen. I had to come home. I had to explain to her. I had to tell her, like, how I had walked away, why I walked away, but that I still had a hunger for it and I still wanted to compete. So, man, I've been in church for the last 7 years. So I went to God with it, and I was like, man, this is something I really want to do. Help me figure this out. So the first fight that they offered me was against Julian Lane, and he's one of those
Mm-hmm.
guys that likes to throw down,
Yeah.
So I was like, man, it's a
Let me
perfect
bang.
fight. Yeah, that's it. Let me bang. And so I was like, I can do this. But it all played out perfectly. First she come they come in, they say your first fight will be in Cancun, Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
She had never been to Cancun. So I was like, listen, mama, we can go to Cancun, Mexico. And she was like, wait, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I was like, man, it's like a vacation, and we can go and we can have some fun and we'll be out on the beach and this and that. So that that helped a lot. But then, I had set goals whenever I said I was going to do this. I said, it's a new sport. I'm fighting a guy who's they're considering making a champion right away.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was no real way, it was kind of new, so they needed a champion. And they're like, man, he won the title in England. He's coming here to the States, so we want to do this first bout in Mexico for the international title. So I was like, I get to win a title coming in. I get to fight a guy that's going to throw down, and we
Mm-hmm.
get to go to Cancun. But I thought, whenever I talk to God, I was like, look, if I do this, give me an opportunity to be number one. I want to prove to people that I'm the best. So I made that deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I prayed it out, and I got her to go ahead and agree to it. She was like, Cancun, you know what? Go ahead and sign it. 3 fights, and that's it. So I was like, okay, 3 fights and that's it. So therefore, I made my deal with God. I made my deal with my wife. And then I made my deal with the company that I work for. I told them, hey, man, I got these 3 fights. I can stretch them out. I'll have to be gone a couple months at a time and to train, but I'll be back and I'll be on TV. So it'll be easier for people to reach out to me, and it'll give them an opportunity to see what I used to do and kind of pull them into my world and make them more comfortable with who they're dealing with. So all 3 deals went good. I'm gonna do the first fight. Everything goes great. When I fought Julian, I hadn't trained in 2.5 years, so I had 6 weeks to get ready. It took 1 week to make all these deals happen. And hold on, the little one found me. And so then I made all these deals. Let me let them come get her. Let's see. And so right, I work everything out, and then I'm working with Cowboy and them, and I work out
Mm-hmm.
real hard for 5 weeks straight, like straight 5 weeks. Train like a madman. Everything works out. I get there and I knock out Julian. Well, then I get this false perception that I'm going to sit back, live regular life. And then if I get a fight, I just got to go train for 5 or 6 weeks and I'll win every fight. I'll beat everybody. And they set me up against Jason Knight. So I wait 6 weeks exactly. I take off. I head down there to training camp, and I'm there for 3 weeks. And then they call me and they tell me that Jason Knight got hurt. They're going to have to find me a replacement. So I was like, dang it, man, I might not fight. So I call my job, I call my wife, and I tell them, hey, man, I'm coming back home. I'm gonna if they find a replacement, it's probably gonna be a nobody. I'll just train at home and it'll be good. So I come home, I'm in decent shape. I kind of keep on the treadmill, go to local gyms and get ready, but I'm not really training, I'm just kind of like half-assing it. And then they find me Jim Maylers. But with Jim Maylers, they tell me you're entering a 8-man tournament and it's for the lightweight title. So I was like, Okay, so I'll kind of train for this fight, and then the next fight will probably be tough, and then the next fight. But that was breaking the original deal, right? Because I had said I was
Mm-hmm.
only going to do 3 fights,
Mm-hmm.
so that would have put another fight on the contract. So I go to this fight, and I made weight. I go in there, and it's not Jim's fault that I wasn't prepared. It's Jim's fault. I mean, Jim's job is to put me away, and he did. It was an ugly fight. It was a bad fight. I got punched right in the eyeball. Like he didn't hit any bone anywhere. He just caught all eyeball. He damaged my eye for good. Like I have tissue damage where one of my pupils is larger than the other pupil for the rest of my life, like from here on out. And I went in there, and I think because I broke that deal and I half-assed it, it kind of happened. And don't get me wrong, Jim's a great fighter, but I think if I'm prepared, it's a different fight. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how the fight would go. I just think I could have gave him a better look. Either way, I come home after that fight, my eyes all messed up. Everything's, kind of like flips upside down. I'm thinking, man, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. What should we do? My wife's like, you're never fighting again. It's over. You could have lost your eye. And I don't know what it was, man. Something, and of course I always say God, but told me, get in the gym now, start training, and just get in there right now, start training because something big is going to happen. So I go to the gym with my eyes still all messed up. I go in there, I'm starting to work head movement. Of course, I'm not taking these shots. I start working on cleaning up my balance, my striking, everything else. And I work. So for 9 months, man, Bare Knuckle didn't call me. They didn't tell me
Mm-hmm.
anything, like nothing at all.
Oh
So for
wow.
9 months, man, I was just working all these basic principles. Watch your footwork. Don't get wild. Don't do this. Move your head. Slip punches, land, throw straight punches, throw number of punches. So I'm training, training, training. Then 9 months later, I see Joe Elmore fight Will Cho. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching this dude, and I'm like, man, 165, I have a title at that weight class. This dude's something else. He's serious business. Like he's killing people.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch him fight Tom Schoaf. And when I watched him fight Tom Schoaf, I was like, God dang, this dude can go the distance. He can go 5 rounds. He can keep that same energy for the whole 5 rounds. And he hits like a truck in every round. So I was like, God dang it, man, this dude's tough.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm training and training and training, doing everything I need to do. He finishes fighting Tom Schoaf. He goes to the back and he does an interview. And they're like, who do you want to fight? And he was like, well, shoot, Leonard Garcia holds the title. I want to fight that guy. So I was like, all right, that's what you've been getting me ready for. That's why I've been in
Mm-hmm.
the gym. That's what it is. And then the rankings came out and he was number one. He was ranked number one, like he was the top guy, and he's calling me out. So I looked up, I prayed, and I said, God, I know you put this together. I know I had
Mm-hmm.
3 fights to try to be the best. We made a deal, and you gave me an opportunity to fight the number one guy. So I promise you, I'm going to go into this fight fully prepared. No matter what happens afterwards, I'm going to retire. So when people ask me, are you comfortable? Do you feel good about it? I think it was set up by design. You don't
Mm-hmm.
get beat up by a guy and then fight the number one guy. It just doesn't happen that way. It had to be intervention somehow. So I think God put his plan into play. I tried to break the contract in that second fight against Jim. He didn't let it go. Well, not he didn't let it go that way. I didn't prepare correctly. I didn't do the right things, and it didn't go my way. And then he gave me the opportunity. But for a year and 2 months, man, I got ready for Joe Elmore without even knowing it. So, that's the way it happened, man. It all played out perfectly, and so when I retired, I had peace. You know what I mean? I felt good
Mm-hmm.
about it, and I was like, you know what? I did everything I wanted to do. I made all the promises that I made and didn't have to break one. So I'm happy with it.
That's amazing. It's like everything happened for a reason for that moment for Elmer fight. which is
That's
hard.
exactly what it was, man. Everything happened in sequence, and it happened in order, and people got to see the good side of Leonard, the bad side of Leonard, and the best side. So like I showed all my sides,
In
and
three
I put
fights.
all my cards out on the table, and it worked.
Hmm. That's awesome, man. Amazing, especially the way too. It's a fight that people are gonna be talking about for years and years to come. So,
That's it, man.
and was there ever a time after you announced your retirement, was Bare Knuckle try to get you to come back again after that?
Yeah, Dave pretty much knew that I meant what I said. Like every time I've talked to him, he knows I'm a man of my word. And you know, I think Bare Knuckle helped me make the decision by because that was the last fight on my contract, right?
Hmm.
And if I think, and this is just speculation on my end, I think they thought Joe was going to beat me. And the
Hmm.
reason I say this is because if if you own a company and you know a guy's coming to the end of his contract, what are you going to do right before his contract ends? Make him another offer, right?
Hmm.
You're going to give him something to stay for, right? They never approached me with a renegotiation for the next few fights. They never approached me with anything, and I think because of that, like my decision was a perfect decision because I mean I don't know if that's the way it really was or if that's the way it played out, but I think they were betting on the wrong horse, you know.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the way I've seen it, and I think I have had different things come up. They're saying Lewis the Baboon would have been a great fight at 165. He
Hmm.
wants to fight anybody right now. I think you showed a lot in your last fight, and he beat Jim. So if you could beat a guy like him, that would erase that loss completely. And there was just so much out there, but it was like they just like I said, they never made that step to try to re-sign me or do anything because in in their eyes they were thinking if Joe beats this guy, he's on his last fight, so we'll just go ahead and let him ride off
Hmm.
into the sunset and be done. But they didn't expect to see what had happened, and like I walked Joe down. I think it was fairly decisive when I watched the fight over and over. I think, man, I really did a number on this guy, so it worked out really well.
And it makes sense because like you could tell like if Joe would have won, he probably would have gotten a title shot, and they would
Yeah,
have been promoting him and making more money off of him.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and I see the business side of it, and that's the easiest part about walking away from fighting is because you're as good as your last fight,
mhm.
and that's just the way they look at you, because marketing wise, like you watch what they did with Kimbo Slice. This dude was a YouTube phenom monster. He had all this
Mhm.
popularity. They bring him into the UFC. They give him a couple fights. They feed off all that popularity, and then whenever you don't have it anymore because people see that you really can't fight, they boot you out of there. And
Mhm.
that's why it was so easy for me to walk away because it really is just that way, man. You're as good as your last fight, and you hear it all the time. Anderson Silva ran the division for what 20 years, and Chris Weidman knocks him out, and people are all like, "Ah, he sucks,"
Yeah,
And it's
it's
like, wait
true.
a minute, that dude did all of that for all them years, entertained you for all those years, but now all of a sudden he sucks. So, but that's the harsh reality, like we don't, as people, we don't like to see losers. We like to see the guy who's winning.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of the way it works. And that also made it easy for me to walk away.
Mhm. It's true because it's almost like the fans, especially nice like in the US, don't really appreciate it. It's almost like, oh, you lost, it's over. You
Yeah.
suck, and it's kind of like
Yeah.
you like what he's done for like the past 10 years, dominating
Yeah.
division.
No, nobody cares, man. And as a fan now, I look at it and I tend to appreciate what guys did in the past. But when you see him on the decline, you're like, man, no telling how many he's got left. So yeah, I mean, it's just the nature of the game, man. It is what it is. It's fighting. It's a one-on-one sport. So I get it.
Mm-hmm. And also, what was it like, with your relationship with Bare Knuckle? What was that,
They're great.
relationship like with them?
They're fantastic. They really do take care of you. I feel like it was a better relationship than the UFC. In the UFC, I remember, of course, I had a lot of fight of the nights. I had a couple knockout of the nights. I had all these bonuses. They take care of you on the front end, and they're really professional about that. Like, man, if you do good for me, here you go. I'm gonna hook you up. But in the long run, um, I mean, if you aren't bringing them viewers or you're not bringing them popularity, you know,
Yeah.
I kid, I'd tell people my butt still hurts, when they kick me out. They cut you and it's like, all right, thank you for everything you did. Or not even that. Like, hey, good job. Here you go. Here's a little bit of money. See you later. Bye. And but like I said, man, I completely understand and I get it. That's the way it is, man. Fighting, you're as good as your last fight, and that's the way. If you go into it with that mentality and you understand that, then you'll get it. Like, you watch this Conor McGregor and what's his name? Poirier, this trilogy. If Poirier puts him out again like that, I doubt we'll be hearing all of the Conor McGregor hype all over again for not for very much longer. I think he'll end up somewhere else here pretty soon if that fight doesn't go his way. And Conor McGregor's kind of the guy that changed the sport again. Royce Gracie did it
Yeah.
once, and then Royce Gracie changed it, and then after that, there was guys like Tito Ortiz, and then came Conor McGregor, and McGregor definitely changed the way to sell a fight and created that superstar status. But if he loses one more to a guy that he beat before, and everybody figures you out. That's the bad thing about fighting is once you get figured out, you got to find something new and then change everything up and start something different. And I don't know that McGregor has that in him. And we'll see, if he gets knocked out by Poirier again, I don't think his hype is going to be the same. I don't think people are going to want to watch him the same. And, you guys will see the ugly side of the UFC. They made him who he was. And now they'll just kind of shoo him to a side and be like, well, we'll see what happens. So either way.
Yeah, I mean, especially people are saying if Conor loses fight, you most likely will probably see him fight like a YouTuber like Jake Paul or something, or a boxing fight like that.
Yeah, and I don't even know that would. I mean, he's good at what he does, but we're like I said, we're humans, man, and we see negative before we see positive. I don't know why our nature's that way, but if he loses this fight again, another one, now people are going to bring up, well, he lost to Diaz, he lost to, Khabib beat him up. And if you watch that Khabib fight, it was really competitive. Like, he actually did a dang good job. I think he took Khabib into a different place than anybody else ever has. Like, you can't take anything away from Conor. He's a fantastic athlete, but if Poirier puts him out again, we're going to remember that. We're going to start remembering all the losses, everything else. So it's trash talk isn't really going to be as exciting anymore, because we're going to be like, man, we're getting all hyped up to see him get beat up again. Like, it's the same. When he wins, it's like, dang, he's talking the talk, but he walks the walk. But when he loses, it's like, dang, what do you so I don't even know that would sell, man. I don't know that I would buy that if he fights a YouTuber or somebody else to try to stay relevant, because then that's what he's doing, is trying to stay relevant. So if he trains his butt off and he does the right things this next fight, I think he gives, Dustin a good run, then he's got a few more fights to sell. But if he doesn't, and Dustin's got him figured, then we'll see less and less of McGregor.
Mm-hmm. And what's your prediction on that fight? Who do you see winning that fight?
If I think Conor was overconfident this last fight, I really feel like he had beat him before pretty easily, and I think he came in with that superstar status. The most dangerous thing to a fighter is our own mind. When we think we're unbeatable, and we become the coach in the gym, as I call it. Like I've been there before. When everybody in the gym is telling you, man, you're the best. Oh man, you hit so hard. You do this, you do that. If anybody stands in front of you, it's over. You start believing that, and your training sessions aren't as intense as they used to be because you have nothing else to prove. So if you beat yourself mentally and you believe you're the best, then somebody shows you, no, you're not the best. I was better than you, and I'm doing that. So I think that's what happened to McGregor this last fight. But I feel like if he comes in hungry, and if Poirier thinks, well, I got this guy figured out now, I can beat him any day. I can take his punches and I can do this and that, and he slips up, I see, Conor can definitely win that fight. You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see Conor take him down and try to submit him. A lot of people don't know this, but Conor McGregor is a monster on the ground, and I think that would be a good look for him if he did that and got away from the excitement of trying to knock people out. I think if he did more groundwork, he would become, he would carry a longer legacy than he already has. So, who do I like in the fight? I'd like to see Conor win just to see how much further he can go. But Poirier is such a good dude that I think, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I'm going to go with, man, let's go with Poirier. Just because he's holding a lot of anger and resentment towards him over that money, and he wants to shut him up for good. So I think Poirier still come in with something to prove, and so I think Poirier has the edge. Maybe I'll say Poirier.
Nice. And it's like you were saying too, is like when you surround yourself with yes man, you believe in it, and
yep,
and then you fight a guy like Poirier and you get knocked out. It's like, oh man.
And then all your yes men are like, uh-oh, you just slipped or you made a mistake. They start making excuses for you. And then, but that's another thing. If those yes men agree with why he lost, then, oh, well, you got caught because of this or you did that. And he has those yes men, and they won't fix anything. And that's a problem with yes men. So, I'd like to see, I don't know, like I said, it's a big transition. I'd like to see what happens, but I'm excited to see which one of those guys comes out on top. And I guess I already picked Poirier, so I'm pulling for him now.
Awesome, nice.
Was and sort of the similar narrative of the Ronda Rousey, her story. I mean, she was carrying the women's division, then she gets 2 losses and somewhat forgotten, Now Nunes is the face of the women's division. She was in the cover of Ringside magazine at one point, labeling her as a striker.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy how the guard changes so quickly, right? It's like at one point in time they were talking about Ronda Rousey beating up men. Like, oh, dude, she could. The lightweight dudes better start watching out. She's gonna come challenge for their title. And now people are like, oh yeah, she sucks. She's a pro wrestler. So it's nuts how it works, man. But like I said, man, it's just human nature, and it really is. You're as good as your last fight, man, in fighting. That's just the way it works. So my advice to any of you young fighters coming up out there is always remember those words. You're as good as your last one. So always remember that, because no matter what everybody around you is telling you, you still got something to prove if you're going to fight again. Yeah.
Great advice. Especially, especially now, you have, like we were mentioning, we have YouTubers fighting. This Saturday, Jake Paul's gonna fight Ben Askren. What are your thoughts on YouTubers going into boxing? You think it's bad for the sport, or you think it's good for the sport because they're getting more attention to the sport?
I think it's Jake Paul is an athlete. If you he is a YouTuber and he's famous for being a YouTuber, but if you really watch him and you see the things that he does, the dude trains. He's fairly, he's got some skill. Do I think Ben Askren could beat him in a boxing match? I think Jake Paul picked the perfect guy to go in there against. And I think this is his fight to win. And if he loses, he embarrasses himself in front of the world. So, but you're right. It's labeled as a YouTuber fighting an MMA guy in a boxing match. So it's a circus act. You know what I mean? I hate to say it that way, but it really is. It's just like, we go to the circus to see something crazy and unusual and things that we're not used to seeing all the time. And that's exactly what it is. And the crazy thing is that circus tents always get full, like we're interested in seeing something we've never seen before. So I'm going to watch it. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things, man. Like I said, the unknown is always something that we're curious about. And we're going to watch it and people are going to talk about it. And it's just, I don't know, it's all human entertainment. So to me, I just don't like that now guys who are YouTubers think, heck, I could be a fighter. But the reality is any of us could be a fighter. I mean, you and Richard, I mean, you guys, you go to a gym, like you said, you did a little boxing when you were younger. You go to the gym, you do the right training, you do the right things, and the coach sees some promise in you, you could be a boxer. You know what I mean? Like, who's to say you couldn't? And then people would be like, oh, wow, now we have a podcaster that, or a guy who runs an interviewer that now a journalist that wants to be a fighter, and that would be a story to tell. So I don't know, man. Like I said, fighting has been around from the beginning. Like we our nature to defend something is to fight. And when people started using it as entertainment, I mean, it's one of the best markets out there. And I enjoy watching fights, so it's gonna be around forever, man. Like you watch that movie Cinderella Man. Everybody was in the gutter. People were it was during the Great Depression, during that time, and that dude used fighting to bring his family out of some, that terrible time. But even during the time that people couldn't pay their bills, people were getting their lights shut off, burning furniture for heat, they were still watching fights. You know what I mean?
Fights were still going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, they had the radio turned on. People were at the bar listening to it. Oh, you're that guy. And so to me, it's an entertainment value, and I appreciate it. And man, good luck to Jake Paul and Ben Askren, man. They caught the attention of the world, and that's what everybody's trying to do. So it's a good thing.
And especially like I said, it's like a strategy. He picked a guy that's going to give him credibility, and he picked a guy that doesn't really have the best stand-up. So
like I said, it's his fight to win. If he loses, I mean, what did he really lose? He got the eyes of the world to look at him. He's going to be more famous because of it. And if he wins, then he's legitimized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, well, I beat Ben Askren. He was a top 10 guy. He beat Robbie Lawler. And I mean, it's just one of those things where he picked the right guy. You know what I mean?
And especially, we have, his brother Logan's going to fight Floyd Mayweather.
That's crazy. But Mayweather capitalizes on all these things. I mean, look what he did against McGregor. I think McGregor got paid really well, but Mayweather came out. I mean, he doesn't have to fight anymore if he doesn't have to ever again in his life. But he sees the entertainment value and he understands that. So now he's creating circus acts as well because he knows he's going to fill that tent and he's going to fill his pockets. So I don't know. I mean, I wish I was as business savvy as those dudes and I could create a circus act to get rich off of, and it'd be great, you know?
Oh yeah, and it's, you know,
And do you no, go ahead, Alex.
Go ahead.
Especially with, you know, I mean, it's crazy to see, you know, Logan's fighting Floyd Mayweather, and people are, you know, you have guys they've worked so hard, and then they're kind of overshadowing these guys,
Yeah.
you know, who've been, you know, working this hard. You think it's kind of bad, especially, you know, they're taking the main event slot over guys that worked hard to be in that main event?
It definitely puts it makes it, like I said, you know, Conor McGregor changed the sport. He created an act, and by him doing what he did against Floyd Mayweather, that opened the door for all of this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It opened the door for all of it because all you have to do is get out there and talk a good game and create the like. I mean, when you think about it, Jake Paul and Logan Paul, they seen what happened there, and they were like, man, all we got to do is make enough noise, get enough followers, get enough. It's like the mob, man. If you get the crowd behind you and you learn to control it, it works for you. You know what I mean? And I mean, you get enough people on YouTube to start saying things, you start getting people on social media to say things, you get to pass a guy with credibility because you have the mob behind you. So I don't agree with it. And like you said, there's guys in line that deserve that, but they're being overshadowed by a big mouth. And Mayweather's like, well, why risk it against this guy who has a way better percentage chance of beating me, rather than going into a fight where I have no risk. It's my fight to lose, and I'm going to cream this guy and make a lot of money off of it. Did Mayweather get higher rankings because he knocked out Conor McGregor? No, people are like, you were supposed to knock that dude out, but he didn't care about the rankings. He cared about the money. And you know, at the end of the day, man, we live in a crazy world, and money is a necessity. You know, we need money to live. Like it sucks that it works that way, but if you want to eat, you got to pay money to get it. If you want to drive somewhere, you got to pay for that gas. So you know, Mayweather understands that, and he sees money, the value of money over the value of being the greatest boxer in the world, which, I mean, he really is. You know, if you watch his fights and who all he fought, he's got that title. And now because he's got that title, he's able to milk it for the money. And I mean, Logan Paul is what, twice his size?
Yeah.
Right? How much is he employed? He's massive. So I don't know, man. It's crazy the way it works out, but I mean, he's not looking at credibility. He's looking at money. So, yeah. And it does suck. Those guys that deserve a shot should have got their shot, but I mean, they know too. It's like me and you both. If they tell you, you know, do this interview with Leonard and you're not going to, you know, you'll get viewers, but if you do an interview with this guy and you get $100,000, I'm not going to see my Zoom. You know, I'm not going to get a Zoom call today. You know, you're going to make your $100,000. So I understand and I get it. And I think everybody that's in line trying to get that, you know, a win over Floyd Mayweather, they understand too, man. They get it. So I don't know. I would do the same thing Floyd's doing, so I'm not going to dog him for it. Yeah.
And also, you know, we have guys who are coming back, legends, you know, Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., and then recently, you know, Oscar De La Hoya is making a comeback, and there's talks of him, you know, fighting Eddie Alvarez in a boxing fight. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know, man. I think as fighters, like, I mean, you've seen it. I'm 41. I went out there and I fought Elmore, and I felt better than I had ever felt. I think I looked better than I had ever looked. And if you really like look back at the new generation and you look at all these things, Oscar is coming back because he sees all these circus acts. He sees all these people doing it. And he's still got, man, Oscar's a fantastic boxer, man. I was watching a video of him the other day where he's, like third day of training and he's moving in there and he's doing stuff. And I mean, hell, you don't see young dudes in the gym with that movement. So our minds always tell us that we still got it. And I think as long as his body holds up, man, I'm gonna watch it. So it's just like me. Like I said, I retired. I felt great, but if I hadn't retired, how many more ticks did I have, or how many more minutes did I have in that ring before you get old? And I don't want to be that guy that stayed in there way too long. And people say, "Dang, that dude should have retired a long time ago." And with Oscar, who's to say he gets in there and we're like, "Dang, he shouldn't have came back." So, and Tyson and who was it?
Roy Jones.
Roy
Jones. Their fight was okay to watch. You know what I mean? It wasn't really what we thought it was going to be, but they look good. I mean, they're great professionals. They did what they had to do, but it really wasn't like what we expected from Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. But we all paid to watch it,
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think it's just, it's a crazy world right now that we live in, and we're watching all these old dudes coming back and fighting, and it really isn't an old man sport. It's a young man sport. So I think that just speaks to a new generation coming out. Like, we got great guys like Ryan Garcia. He's doing fantastic things. He looks really good, but how many rivals does he really have? You know what I mean? How many young guys are still coming up? And I don't know, man. I don't know if the generation of technology has slowed the new class up so much that we're not seeing these young phenoms coming out anymore. And all these old guys are saying, man, well, I'll just fight an old rival, or I'll fight somebody that I've already fought before. Like Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., you know what I mean? Like, they fought everybody, and then they finally get in there and fight each other. And I think that's what sold the fight, because for so many years you would think, dang, what would happen if Mike Tyson in his prime fought Roy Jones in his prime? We didn't get to see that, but then we get to hear them two names and they're going to fight each other. Heck, I'm going to watch it. I grew up watching those guys. I'm going to see what happens, and I don't know, man. It's just, like I said, it's a weird thing. And you're right. Old guys shouldn't be coming out of retirement and fighting, but they're doing it. So it's just a crazy time.
And Oscar looks pretty good. I was watching the videos. He looks in good shape.
Yeah, man. Like I said, his movement in there, I was like, dang it, screw you, Oscar. I'm like, you know what I mean? You're a few years older than me, and he moves better. You know what I mean? I was like, God,
the way he was working the jab too. Like, his jab is still fast.
Yeah, quick. I mean, the dude had one of the best jabs in boxing, hands down. And but like I said, our minds and our bodies still tell us, man, you still got it. You know what I mean? You can still go in there, you can still do it. So I hope he does, man. I hope it looks good.
And you think it's a dangerous fight picking Eddie Alvarez too, who has power?
Man, which one is Eddie? Is it Eddie Alvarez, or who is it?
Eddie Alvarez.
Let me see. Which one is that? I don't know which one he is.
He fought Conor McGregor, Bellator champion.
Oh, Eddie, the MMA fighter, Eddie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. He's gonna fight Oscar De La Hoya.
Yeah, they said they were in talks. Yeah, they're almost ready to sign.
Wow, I hadn't even heard that yet. Until just now. Oscar definitely picked that fight.
Yeah,
because Eddie's a monster, dude. Like he is good. He's got speed. He's tough and he's aggressive but he gets clipped a lot in his fights, and he's been knocked out quite a few times. And I'm gonna tell you something about a professional boxer and an MMA fighter, and they know how to sit down on their punches in comparison to us. When I got into bare knuckle, I went and I trained with a couple of world champion boxers, and I learned a lot about sitting down on your punches. And even though I learned how to do it and I understood it, the MMA side of me still kept me a little bit lighter, a little more sitting back, worried about different things. And boxers don't do that. They really sit down. So Oscar definitely picked his opponent because he thinks he can knock Eddie out, and I think he can too. Yeah. So if that fight does happen, Oscar wins by knockout for sure.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And especially because it's like Rich and I were talking, I'm like, because Eddie Alvarez was on Ariel Helwani. He's the one that made the announcement. Like, yeah, I'm fighting De La Hoya, and I was like, it's so random. Like Eddie Alvarez, like I thought he was gonna fight another legend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. So Oscar's doing what Mayweather did. He's just going to cash in on whatever. It won't be as big as Mayweather and McGregor, but I think it's a hell of a payday for both guys. And you know what? Good for Eddie, man. He's going to get a good payday out of it as well. But I don't think Eddie wins that fight.
Yeah, same. I agree. It's just because it's just two different animals, two different sports.
Yeah, it's and really, you even look at their primes, like the prime times. I wouldn't pick Oscar over Eddie. I mean, I wouldn't pick Eddie to beat Oscar at any time during their primes. Like Eddie always had a chin problem. And Oscar never did. I think he got knocked out to the body by
Hopkins.
Yeah. I think that was the only time he's really ever been put down. And Eddie really doesn't knock guys out. Like he hurts dudes and puts them away, but he doesn't have that one punch knockout power that I've seen. Of course, I've never sparred with him, so he may hit, really hard, and I just don't know it yet. But I never saw it. So that's a good fight for Oscar, man. Good for him. Good choice. He's like Jake Paul. He picked a good fight.
Yeah. But yeah, it's exciting. Exciting how it is. These fights happening. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, man. It's still cool. I mean, it's entertainment. So I'm all for it.
That's true. And especially with COVID, everything, it's good to see entertainment.
I mean, it gives us something to watch and stay at home, I guess.
Yeah. But also I want to go back to Bare Knuckle. So, following your retirement, are you still involved with them? Are you still working with Bare Knuckle?
Yeah. Right now I'm gonna do I'm gonna hold a tryout May 28th in Belfast, New York. I'm going there to receive an award through the Bare Knuckle the Hall of Fame there. They're giving me an award there.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. And Dave Feld, all of them are going to be there, and they're holding a tryout. So I'm going to host a tryout, kind of get schooled in my next step in bare knuckle. I believe they're going to give me a fight team.
Nice.
So they're going to try something different. And I don't know if I'm supposed to be announcing this or talking about it, but I think the way it's supposed to play out, like, guys who were considered legends in the sport are going to have fight teams and create like my fight team will fight this guy's fight team. And then in the end, whoever has the most winners is the fight team champion or whatever. And so I got to go out there and I got to pick, real good guys that I see promising. And I think bare knuckle is really going to be the future combat sports. It's the next big thing, I think. I feel like it is. I think it's even better than boxing. Boxing is super exciting, but bare knuckle boxing is like I think it's even more pure than boxing. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
And then I think it's way more exciting than MMA because still MMA's been popular since the late 90s. And you still have people in the audience saying, oh man, them dudes are gonna lay down on each other again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's never gonna change because as what we like to see, we want to see two guys fighting. And yeah, it does look cool when a guy gets a cool submission or this and that, but it's kind of like, yeah, that was cool. But everybody loves to see a knockout, man.
Oh
Everybody
yeah,
loves to
absolutely.
see that violence or two guys just, hammering each other out. And so I think bare knuckles the future and I'm excited. I hope I pick a good fight team if that's the next step for me. And hope my guys beat everybody up, but we'll see.
That's awesome, man. That sounds so cool. Just thinking about it. And so, are they gonna be playing this in TV or Bare Knuckle
Yeah,
app or?
yeah. No,
Okay.
it'll be on the bare knuckle app, and it'll be just like the shows now. And then when they hold the pay-per-views, like it'll be my team. They'll represent me against this team, kind of like the Ultimate Fighter deal, a little bit, but a
Mhm.
little bit different. I think you guys are gonna start seeing bare knuckle affiliate gyms instead of
Oh,
boxing
Oh
gyms
wow.
or
that's
MMA gyms.
awesome.
There's gonna be bare knuckle gyms where guys go there and just train bare knuckle because it is completely different training. And
Hmm.
I hope that it does kick off and it does fire up really well. I'm just excited for the future of bare knuckle either way.
It kind of almost gives me like an IFL,
IFL, yeah, I was thinking that
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
like
I,
with
I
different
mean,
teams.
and when you think about that, I mean, it works to a certain point, but when they crown a champion and team, people have been watching this sport for so long that after that kind of fades away, then the sport just gets bigger. And I mean, I don't know, all these old guys coming out of retirement, MMA's guys jumping into boxing, all this other stuff. I think we're going to see a lot more guys jumping into bare knuckle. You got Keith Jardine and uh, what is the other guy's name? The Tim Kennedy. They're fighting each
Yeah,
other bare knuckle.
yeah.
And those are two of my teammates, from in the past. And
Mhm.
it's going to be exciting to watch them two go at it bare knuckle. So I really think once these big names start hitting, we're gonna find these new guys that are gonna come out and really make a name for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Especially Bare Knuckles doing really exciting things.
Yeah.
And one thing I was reading too, which I found it fascinating with David Feldman, he's gonna do a pension fund for the
Yeah.
fighters,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
I was like, finally.
So when I was telling you guys about the relationship with bare knuckle, how they really did take care of you, um, he would reach out and of course it's still new, and there's not as many fighters on the roster, but he would reach out and make sure you were all right during training camp. Like, hey man, is
Oh
everything
wow.
good? Is there anything, any way that I can do? So Dave Feldman, man, he's got a really good heart, and he was a fighter as well. So I like that. Dana White was never a fighter, and it really does suck to hear him say, "I'll bet 10 million that you won't knock
Yeah.
this dude out,"
Yeah.
but he can't pay a guy who's coming up. He's offering guys $14,000 contracts. Like, you're
Yeah.
willing to bet 10 million, but you won't give this guy more than 14,000, and he
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and he's the one bringing you the show. It's just, I don't know, man. It's hard, and I think Feldman understands that. I don't think Feldman did it to become. I mean, everybody does something to become successful, but I think as long as his heart stays the way it is, man, I think fighters will see better paydays and a lot of good things will happen.
Well, absolutely. Especially the way he speaks about fighters, you could show that he really does care for them, you
Yeah,
know. And it's like not like Dana White where he talks about these fighters and he kind of puts them down. It's almost like
yeah,
he was a multiple world champ,
Yeah.
the way he
yeah.
talks about it.
It was like I said, man. He did good, he would take care of you if you had like fight of the night, knockout of the night, something like that. But when you lost, it was hard to find a handshake from that dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just the way it is, man.
It's almost like the way he does business, where like he can make you, but he also can race you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And you know, you've seen it, man. Like, I mean, he's done it to multiple people. Where if he talks bad about you, kind of out of the game, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I mean, it's two totally different bosses. I like Dave Feldman's approach, and I like what he's doing. And like you said, man, creating a pension or some type of fund to at least when you're done, you got something to fall
You got
back
something,
on.
yeah, exactly.
That's the cool thing, because when you fight in the UFC, you are good as long as you're fighting. But the
Yeah.
second you get out of it, it's different. You know, it's back to regular life, and you hope that people recognize you enough to where you could make something of yourself. But you know, you got to be real smart, and some guys aren't smart. You know, some guys just think, man, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, and then Father Time or better fighters come into play, and you're like, dang it, I didn't plan that out too well.
And it's almost like with bare knuckle. Do you see in the future? Do you see it being as big as the UFC?
I think it's going to be way bigger than the UFC. Honestly, if you look at the beginning of the UFC, you remember all those years, all those fights, and then Dana bought them, but they really didn't blow up until the Ultimate Fighter. What fight was it? The Griffin and Bonner fight.
Yes.
That's when it kind of took off and it exploded and they started making money. I think Bare Knuckle was already way past that point and gaining popularity at a way faster rate than the UFC did. If you really think about it, they've been around what, three years now?
Yeah.
And people are already comparing them to being like the next big thing, almost in comparison. Like, where do you see them lined up against UFC? And the UFC's been around for 20 something years. So if you think about if you do the math there, in 3 years, they're already competing with them. So I really think they're going to be the next big thing, man.
Oh, absolutely, totally agree. And especially with like the fights, that you just signed, with Paige Van Zandt joining in, and then some of the fights that are putting out, like Malinaji versus Arlobov fights that you wouldn't even think, and it happened.
Yeah, man. And what I really like about them is it's a bare knuckle fight. You have no choice when you're in there. You're gonna fight.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna see. I'm excited to see what Elmore does in his next fight. I'm excited to see what a lot of these guys do. Tom Schoaf is a really good friend of mine. He came down and helped me train. And that dude is something else, man. He's got a really good style. And he's got some fights coming up. So I'm excited to see it. And I'm more excited to watch Bare Knuckle than I am watching, Logan Paul or Jake Paul or anything else. So I think for sure, man, like as a fighter, that's what I want to see. So.
Oh, absolutely. And then especially because we had Chris Lido on the podcast last year, and he was talking about, bare knuckle and how, it's crazy. Like bare knuckle is actually more safer than professional boxing with the gloves.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The freak accident with my eye where he punched all eyeball, that's like one of the things that I've got to talk to my guys about, like the guys that are on my fight team. I've got to teach them certain things and, how to really do things. But as far as like the concussions and the real big knockouts and this and that, it's real hard to hit somebody over and over and over with a bare fist. It's tough, man. Your hands hurt. My hands after the fight, after I fought Elmore, looked like Mickey Mouse hands for like, I mean, they were fat.
Oh.
It was hard to close them and open them. And, it's definitely a lot safer. I know people think like, man, I don't know, you look kind of beat up, but it's just superficial, man. It's just kind of like, a cut here, a little bump there, goes away in a few days. I mean, a week later, I look the way I look now, you know, a little bit of discolorization here, but it wasn't like MMA fights or boxing fights. Them dudes don't come out of the house for a month after those fights. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
And the like, if it looks that bad on the outside and it takes a month to go away, imagine what it did to the inside of your head. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So I
well,
see a lot of longevity in the sport, and I see a lot of guys. I mean, hell, I'm 41, and I was able to go in there and compete. You know, if I was 21, it would have been a lot better. You know, it would have been I would
mhm.
way faster recovery. You know, wanting to fight right away, right again and again and again. So I see it definitely blowing up really quickly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy because we've been talking to other fighters. Like last week we had Ensign in a way, and
Oh yeah,
he was talking about, man, if this was in my time, I would have done bare knuckle, instead of MMA.
yeah.
So so it's crazy because now it's bare knuckle is getting a lot of attention and fans. And then also, how is it? I know some states are not allowing bare knuckle. How is the process of that trying to get more legalized in states?
So New Mexico just passed it. Texas is next. I really think and that's another thing. Uh when the UFC first started, if you remember, it was Denver, Colorado, and I can't remember what the other state was. There was only two states that would allow it, and bare knuckle came out right out of the gate with like 6 or 7 states that allowed it, and now it's growing. I think there's 12 or 13, and I mean, it's all the big states. You know, Nevada's about to pass it.
Oh,
um
nice.
so yeah. New York, I think New York, that's where the Hall of Fame is. So there, you know, eventually they'll pass it. So we'll see him in Madison Square Garden. We'll see some
That would
big.
be awesome.
Yeah, man, that would be the best place, because in New York is where bare knuckle kind of got famous. You know, the dock fights. You know, they talk about all
Mhm.
those old school fights where they got those pictures of dudes all beat up and bloody. Like
Yeah.
they fought 30 rounds, and you're like, how the hell did they fight 30 rounds? Like, there's no way somebody could take that. But that's why, because it was bare knuckle, and they couldn't hit each other as hard as they wanted to because their hands were so swollen. You know, and I really think, like I said, I think it's up to 12, 13 states now, and I know New Mexico just passed it, and Texas is really close now. I've gotten phone calls from the commission here asking me about the rules, asking me how I felt about it. Once the commission starts reaching out to people like me, it's gonna happen, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
It's cool, man. I'm really excited. Like I said, man, I know it's the next big thing, and I just hope to be able to make an impact and keep my name relevant in it, and not just be remembered as the guy who fought there, but have take steps with them to keep growing as well.
Oh, absolutely. And especially, futures looks like it's going to be bright for bare knuckle because we're doing some great things with the sport,
Heck yeah, man.
and can't wait. And especially, I want to talk about real quick, some of the fights in your MMA career. I remember the first time watching you was the WEC when you fought Pulver. What was
Yeah.
that fight like for you and getting a win over him?
That was crazy, man. You know, I watched Jen Spover fight BJ Penn. BJ Penn was one of my favorite fighters growing up, and Pulver beat him, you know. And I
Hmm.
remember I had like a grudge against him for beating BJ, and to be able to fight him and take him out the way I did, man, it was nuts, because he had just gone 5 rounds with Uriah right before I fought him.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? They went to, crazy decision, or I don't know. I think, did Uriah catch him there at the very end, or did they
Uh,
go to decision? I couldn't remember,
I
but
think
I
it was
know
a
they went.
decision.
Decision,
Yeah,
I
I
believe.
think they went five. Yeah, yeah, he went 5 rounds to decision, and then I fought him right after, and then put him away real quick. Um, that's kind of one of those fights that made a name for me, and created like, oh man, this dude's serious, or he's a real deal. But that was one of the fights that also sent me to a place of yes man all around me, telling me, oh man, you're gonna knock everybody out, you're a monster, and you're this and you're that. And then I started believing that, and then here comes Mike Brown, and then puts me in my place. So it was great, man. It was just it was a big deal though, man. It really did change a lot of things for me. And when you fight a guy like that, man, like Pulver, a guy who's fought everybody and has all that experience, I mean, that gives you credibility and notoriety and everything else. So it was really good, man. I was really excited about it. And you know, I think it helped create the name, so it was great.
Mm-hmm. And also, you had so many great fights, amazing fights in WEC. Also, the fights with Korean Zombie.
Yeah.
What was that like? Fighting him for the first time and fighting Korean Zombie.
Yeah, his fight meant more to me than any other fight because it did so much for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
It made us both different level fighters. Like he would tell me, man, everybody in Korea knows who you are. And I was like, shut up, dude. The whole United States just talks about you. You know what I mean? To me, when a fight elevates both guys, it means a whole lot more, man, because we gave it everything we had. We went out there and I mean, we really did. Like we went to the hospital together after that fight, and the lady, his knee was messed up. I'd kicked his leg and did a little bit of damage to his meniscus, and he was on a wheelchair and he had a brace on his arm, and I had broken my hand, so I had a brace on my hand.
Oh,
and I'm all swollen. He's got a swollen eye, and he's all messed up. And we rode in the ambulance together. And then when we got off, we were waiting on the paramedic, and I pushed him into the hospital doors with the wheelchair. And the lady was like, "Oh my God, what were y'all driving? Like, what hit y'all?" She thought we had a car accident.
Oh.
So it was funny, man. And to share that experience with them and to share that fight with them, I gained so much respect for him. And we couldn't talk because of our language barrier, but his translator was translating for us. And I don't know if he was cussing me out and his translator was saying good things or but he was, we were communicating through his translator, and he's just a real good dude, man, and it was cool to have that. And then if you watch our second fight when he caught me with the twister, our stats up until that point were completely even. So we're on our way to, continuing this battle that we always carried out. And it was just good. But for me, it meant more because it made him so famous here in the States. And then also he tells me, that everybody in Korea knew who I was. So I think it was cool that two guys got in there, gave it everything they had, and were recognized by everybody for it. So that fight meant the most to me for that reason. And it was just a really good experience. He actually hit me up after this last fight, and he told me, he was like, "You're crazy for doing bare knuckle. You're nuts. I would never do that." But he was like, "Man, it was so good to see you go out there and you looked like the Leonard Garcia that fought me that night." You know what I mean? So it was kind of
That's awesome.
And cool. So I got an English to Korean translator. So he sends me his messages in English, and I send him my responses in Korean. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's cool. You guys are still, talking, which is cool. The friendship is still there, which is awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man. That to me is the best thing because growing up, whenever you had a problem with somebody or you would fight, it was funny. Like later on, they were your best friend, right?
Yeah.
That's the way it works when you're young. And it just, because when you fight each other, it brings that respect between both guys. And I was real happy to have that with him. And really, I have it with a lot of the guys that I fought. But like I said, with him, it meant so much more because our names made each other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So here's our conversation there. I don't know if you guys can see it.
I can see it.
But yeah, he responds back to me in English, and I respond back to him in Korean. So it's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So hold on. Yeah, there's his tag there. So that's it. That's our conversations there. So it's kind of cool It's actually real cool to have that, man. And a lot of people don't realize stuff like that. Like, we've become best friends after these fights, man. Like, you guys watched us go out there and try to kill each other for 15 minutes, and then I'm wheeling them into the hospital on the wheelchair. You know what I mean? So to me, that's what fighting is. It never is about hate or anger. I just love to fight. You know, I really
Mhm.
enjoy testing myself against somebody else, and to have guys like him that elevated themselves to a position where when we tested each other, it was such an even match and we went at it so crazy. It just feels good to know that there's guys out there that can take it, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I kind of mentioned earlier, like with the whole Gaddy Award, they end up becoming
Or yeah.
best friends. And
Yeah.
it's almost like with you and Zombie.
Yeah, man, exactly. It's super cool, man. I really enjoy hearing those stories too, because I can relate, you know?
Hmm. It's awesome. It's a beautiful thing. And also, what was it like the relationship working with WEC?
They were great. Reed Harris was the owner of the WC before the UFC bought him out. He still works for the UFC. He was a lot like Dave Feldman. He really cared about the fighters, and me and him actually still talk to this day. He's just a good dude, man, and I really enjoyed fighting for him as well. I always told Feldman, uh, "You're the you're one of the best bosses, man." And he was like, "Not the best," and I was like, "Man, I don't know." I'm real good friends with one of the guys that was one of my bosses, and that's what I'm talking about here, Reed Harris. So, you know, I also tell young fighters when they're coming up, don't let your manager do all the talking. Don't let your manager be your bridge between you and the owner. It's always best to have that one-on-one communication with the owner. And it's real tough when you got a guy like Dana White who's larger than the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
But if I would tell fighters, man, if you do make it to that point, try to get his ear and try to make him understand who you are because it helps in the transition, you know.
Hmm. And also, going back to UFC in 2010, how much, because you were fighting there, you made your debut in 2007. When you went back to in 2010, how much did UFC change from that point?
um, Man, you know, when they brought in the WC, I really felt like it was more of like a media change. You know what I mean? Like it was a lot
Hmm.
bigger coming from the WC back to the UFC. It felt different, but at the end of the day, we just got more media out of it. Like they started focusing on the fighters, and that felt good. They
Hmm.
weren't just so focused on what Dana White had to say or what the next matchup was. They really were interested in our stories and what we're going through. And I think the Ultimate Fighter did that because you follow, you're in a house with guys who don't go home and all they can do is talk about their stories coming up. So that gave people like empathy towards fighters. You know what I mean? Like these dudes are
Hmm.
just regular people. They're not fighters, you know? So it was kind of cool. But yeah, that's where I think it took a different spin was after the Ultimate Fighter. People realized like these dudes aren't just guys that fight every day. You know what I mean? They got regular lives and they're
Hmm.
regular people. We're just lucky enough to get up there and do our job in front of all of you guys.
Hmm. And how did you find out too when UFC bought the WEC?
They told us all. They told us
Mm.
all in the back that uh, that me and the Korean Zombie, our fight was the last WEC card, and if you noticed, we wore those blue gloves with no logo on them.
Mm. Oh
So
yeah.
we wore gloves with no logo on them. So I still got my pair, and me and him have talked about it. I'm gonna send him one of mine. He's gonna send me one of his, and we're
It's
gonna
so
sign them.
cool.
Yeah, so,
That's
so
cool.
that's kind of cool that he still has his and I still have mine. I think we'll sign them, and he'll keep one forever, and I'll keep one for I'll keep his, and then he'll have my signature on one, and then he can sign the other one. I'll have his signature on mine, and then I'll sign the other one. and hang those up, and
That's so cool.
it'll be kind of cool. But yeah, we knew that they were gonna buy us out, and that we're all gonna go to the UFC. So it was kind of it was cool. It did feel good to go back to the UFC, you know, because we were considered like the little brother of the UFC in the WEC. So when they brought us on, then we were all UFC. So it felt like we had graduated from JV to varsity.
Yes.
But it was kind of cool.
And I remember, you know, your first fight back in UFC was, I think it was against Nanfan.
Yeah, Nam Fam, man. And it's crazy because I fought Nam Fam a couple times, and I thought when I watched the fight, I thought if they were going to give him one, they would have gave him our first one. But if they watched our second fight, they would have gave it to me. And then I was like, they gave me the first one, and they gave him the second one.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that's the one thing that I think ruined boxing was judges' decisions.
Yeah.
I really think that did a number on boxing, and I think it took it put a bad taste in people's mouth. And I think judging in MMA also, it put a bad taste in people's mouth. I wish they would pick fighters to become judges, not biased fighters, maybe like some fighters who didn't probably make it all the way to the top, but like got really close and understand how it feels to have a fight taken from you. You know, like when you reach the top level guys, like the guys who made it to the very top, they can still be swayed. But if you take a guy who's been cheated before or felt like he had been cheated, he'll never do it to anybody else because he understands how it feels. And as fighters, we know what it feels like, and I think that's the only thing that needs to change in the sport right now. And I think that'll help the longevity of it if they got better judges.
And especially, you know, we're seeing a lot of fighters coming into that role. You know, you see Frank Trigg, you know, he's reffing, you know, and I think Chris Lieben's trying to he's reffing too. So
yeah, I like fighters to be refs. I think that's good, but I wish they would let us become
judges.
Yeah, because we know what the point system really is. We know when a guy, like a lot of the times, a commentator too, man, can make it sound like you're losing a fight even if you're winning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know, that's dangerous as well, because then, like I said, the crowd and people that are listening to that will hear that and they're swayed by it, and it changes their outlook of the fight. Like if the commentator makes it sound like you're losing, then at the end you win, they're like, I don't think that guy really won. and you know, it's just like, man, that, you know, so I don't know. I think there's so many different aspects of all those jobs, and I think they're all tough jobs, but I think the judging of it has to be changed.
Oh yeah, and especially, you know, there's even judges that don't even really know a lot about the sport, and I'm like, what are they doing judging? You know?
Yeah, I really don't get it. I don't know why it's set up that way, but I think it needs to change.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, and one thing I wanted to talk about, you know, especially, you know, with fighting at going to UFC and then going to Legacy FC, winning the title there. Take me back. What was that moment winning the title there, and what it meant for your career?
So what it was supposed to mean in my career was that I was going to go back to the UFC. That's what they told me, and I'm gonna. It's crazy you brought that up, but that's really what took fighting MMA. That's what made me lose my hunger for it. UFC cut me, and they told me go to Legacy, go to Legacy for a few fights, win the title, we'll bring you right back. I win the title. They fly me out to Chicago. Cowboy fought some Brazilian dude and kicked his head off there, knocked him out. I can't remember who the Brazilian guy was. One of the Cowboys head kick knockouts in Chicago. Anyways, they brought me over there. They have a meeting with me, and they're like, "We want to bring you back to the UFC, but maybe as a commentator or as something else, not but not fighting." Because at the time they had Conor McGregor, Jose Aldo, Chad Mendez, Cub Swanson, and I can't remember who the other name was. I think Lamas or something. Those guys were on fire at the time. They were really doing big things. The Zombie was blowing up, all these different people, and they're like, doesn't really make sense to bring you right back and throw you in the mix and pay you all this money right now, you know. But if we bring you back as a commentator, then you can do what what's the guy Dominic Cruz. You can do what he does, commentate a few fights, kind of whatever, kind of pick a guy to fight, go out and train, and then we'll give you another fight. But they didn't want to throw me right back in the mix, and I took that hard. I was like, man, y'all told me just to go win this title, you'd bring me right back and throw me right in the mix of things. And I wanted to fight Conor McGregor. I wanted to fight, Jose Aldo. I wanted to test myself against these dudes. And when they told me that, man, I was just like, man, you know what? I'm done, man. I'm done. And then they they asked me to defend the title legacy, and I was like, man, whatever. And then I knew I was going to retire after that. So I was like, you know what? I'm done with MMA. But then they told me Daniel Pineda, right? So I was like, you know what? This dude will throw down with me. He won't want to grapple. He won't want to do any of that. He'll scrap if I tell him like, hey man, throw down with me. Let's go toe to toe. Let's show these people a good fight. That way I can retire on a good fight. You know what I mean? Like a good scrap. And he's game. He's like, hell yeah, this and that. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. His nickname is the pit bull or I can't that something crazy like Daniel Pineda wants to he's one of those guys. He's Mexican. I was like, hell yeah, he's gonna scrap. It'll be a good fight to go out on. It'll be a good note. Dude comes in. Well, I'm talking trash. His family's there, and I'm like, if you're a man, you'll stand toe to toe with me.
Yeah.
He's like, hell yeah, let's do it. Man, he comes in, dude, and shoots in on me in the first 3 seconds of the fight. And I ain't up, man. I for reals, I've never felt this in a fight, but dude, I wanted to cry. I was just like, I can't believe this dude shot in on me. He told me he was gonna scrap. He told me we were gonna throw down. He shot in on me, and I was just like, to hell with it, man. I hate this sport. I hate that he had that out. And he's a dang good grappler, you know what I mean? And if I would have been getting ready for a grappling match, it would have been a good fight, but I was just getting ready to scrap, man, like me and Joe Elmore did, So Daniel Pineda let me down that night, man. I felt really, it was ugly, man. So when I walked away from MMA, when I walked away from that, it was like with a real bad taste in my mouth. I hated that sport, you know what I mean? And it sucked. To me, it sucked because guys had a way out. They didn't have to fight. They could just shoot in, not take any risk, and try to submit a guy,
And especially, like, I think his nickname's like the Pit.
Yeah, the Pit. There you go. Yeah. Dan, yeah, the Pit. Like, man, come on, dude. Your nickname's the Pit, and you're gonna shoot in on me in the first 3 seconds of the fight. Like, man, come on, man. But I don't know. I tripped out on that, man. I really did. It was a letdown. But either way, man, it was good. It all played out to end the way it did, so it worked out.
Yeah, and it led to you going to Bare Knuckle, and you had a great career there. And I think you won the. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was like the WBF Latin America champion, right?
Yeah. Still, and I still have that one. So I was I retired as it's basically like the bare knuckle international title. So I retired as a international champion and the number one ranked guy at that weight class because there is no champion there. So at the end of
Mhm.
the day, I feel like I retired the only belt holder at 165. So I retired as a champion, you
That's
know,
awesome.
it was cool. I loved every minute of it. I love bare knuckle, man. And like Incident in a way said, if it had been around 20 years, that's all I would have done for the next 20 years. But it's like I said, man, it's a great sport. I'm excited to watch it keep growing. And hopefully if this fight team thing does happen, I'll pick a great fight team. And like I said, hopefully my guys win all of them.
Oh yeah, I can't wait, man. I hopefully it comes out pretty soon because uh I'm excited. It brings, like I said, it brings it back like that old like IFL, like
Heck yeah.
Ultimate Fighter, you know. And have they even talked about like have they said anything about the other coaches who's joining in?
Man, if you think about it, I think you guys mentioned one of them there. He was on your podcast. I think Chris Lido will be a coach. He'll be
Oh,
one of the coaches.
nice.
Chris Lieben
Oh
also,
yeah.
carries that banner. So I'm real excited to see who the other coaches are. We'll talk a little trash to each other, and, so it'll be kind
That's
of cool.
cool.
Man. I'm real good friends with both those guys, so it'd be exciting, man. It would be fun to have that camaraderie, but also like I want my guy to whoop your guy.
Yeah.
It would be cool, man. I'm excited for it, man. And I hope it really takes off.
Oh, absolutely. Same here, man. Hopefully it happens, and hopefully we get to see it pretty soon because I know I'll be watching it, and
Thank
then Rich will be watching it. And
Sure.
one thing, I want to ask one more question. For right now, we have a lot of listeners, that want to become an MMA fighter. Any advice you give out to someone that wants to be a fighter? Any advice on training
you.
and also the business side of it?
Yeah, man. I'd say be real, be really serious about it, and understand like fighting is something that you don't think you want to do. It's something that you either know or you don't do it for anybody else, but something inside you is going to tell you that's what you want to do. But also, man, train to be the best, but don't listen to people when they tell you you're the best. Always think that there's somebody better. That right there is some of the best advice. Is always think somebody out there is better, and you need to go out there and train harder. But the business side of it, man, is really think about this: like you're as good as your last fight. So if you want to make millions of dollars, you want to do all this, you want to do all that, you want to become this big superstar, you got to win every fight. You know what I mean? So if
Yeah.
you're young in your career and you've lost a few, and it's going to be real hard to make it, man. So if you're coming up and you're winning, man, don't lose any fights. Do what you got to do. Like I said, always negotiate with the owner of the company. Don't ever let your manager take control of your own destiny. Always know where you're headed, who's taking you there. Don't ever give those reins to somebody else to say, well, I'm going to sign this fight because at the end of the day, they're making money because you're fighting. So you should have the power over everybody else because you're the one that's getting in there. You're the one that's doing it all. So always remember you're the ticket to the whole thing and appreciate that. Take that to the bank. Don't ever let
Mhm.
anybody think that they're doing something for you because you're the only one that gets in there to fight. So it'll be
Awesome.
good.
Great. That's great advice, man. And
Thank
once again, man, I really appreciate it, man. This is an honor to have you on. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And I'm so happy for everything that's going on with Bare Knuckle. And once again, I want to say thank you for all the memories, all the fights you've given us. And
you.
it's awesome, man. It was an honor to have you on, man.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you guys, man, and thank y'all very much, man. And we'll catch up some more. And once my bare
Oh,
knuckle team
absolutely.
starts beating everybody up, I'll come back on and we'll talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. And then anything you want to plug in for your social media so the fans look at you?
Yeah,
Find you?
man. At Bad Boy Garcia, Twitter and Instagram. Leonard Garcia on Facebook. I don't do any of the TikTok or Snapchats.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't do that. But all those different things. I really don't post a whole lot about fighting. I post more family stuff. Things that I'm doing in life. But if I do get a bare knuckle team, I will be posting my guys and who you guys should cheer
Nice.
for and boo for it. No, I'm just playing. I get real mad when they boo fighters, man. I don't like that. But just man, of course, God, man, for giving us all our opportunities in life, and you guys for doing this interview, man. I appreciate you guys.
Oh, awesome. And thank you, man. An honor to have you on. And
Thank
hope
you.
we can have you back and talk about, the show and all that. It would be
Yeah,
so much
man.
fun to have you on.
All right, man. All right, guys. Well, y'all take it easy, man. Y'all have a good night.
You too. Thank
You
you.
too,
All
sir.
right, buddy.
Thanks.
And that's going to do it for us for Championship Online podcast. Really great interview. And once again, thank you guys for watching and listening. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like all that fun stuff on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram, and where you can find all the latest notifications and stuff on our guests and new episodes and all that fun stuff. Anything you want to add on, Rich? What do you think about?
That was pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Also, Apple Podcasts and Spreaker. Don't forget that we actually do have a TikTok as well.
Yeah.
So check that out. But no, I mean, awesome, just awesome career. It's awesome to hear him, how he felt about the sport and he wanted to leave, kind of bitter about, UFC promising he was going to come back. And then years later, he comes back and does bare knuckle, and he has a great
Mhm.
career there.
Yeah. And especially, everything led to him going there, and then he finished off a great
Yeah.
career, which it was fun, and
Yeah.
I can't wait, man. Hopefully the bare knuckle,
It's
show
good.
is
Yeah,
gonna be cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be different, kind of like an IFL, Ultimate Fighter feel. And like you said, I like how you said like the stars aligned for him. He was meant to
Oh
just
yeah.
do those three fights. There wasn't gonna be 4 or 5, just 3. And then how it built up, he trained for almost 9 months, and he ended at top of his career in a spectacular win.
Oh yeah. It was really great story too. His career, and then kind of having a little bit ups and downs, and then going to bare knuckle and finishing off with a classic fight with Elmore. Great way to retire.
Oh yeah, for sure. Great career overall. WEC, UFC, and this win. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Oh, absolutely. And he's a real fighter. He's a guy that comes
Yeah.
in, to fight, goes aggressive, and, especially when he was talking about Pineda too,
Yeah.
he's
Kind
a
of
real
reminds
like,
me of the Boss Rutan versus Randleman.
oh
He's like,
yeah,
I won't take you down and you won't kick me, all right?
yeah.
And then as soon as it happens, it's the whole opposite. Man,
Yeah,
that was
man.
crazy with Pineda. That was crazy. And I could see why I would be upset too. Just it's time to
Oh
move
yeah.
on.
But and then again, it just shows that he was kind of didn't want to stand up with him because Leonard has that power, and
He comes forward. He wants to fight.
yeah, it's true.
And
So
as a fan, that's what you want,
oh, absolutely. You want to be entertained too. And he's like I said, real definition of a fighter that comes in forward and brings it every time. And there was never a boring fight of his. He was always entertaining and
No.
exciting, always came to fight. So, really fun. It was awesome to have him on. And once again, guys, you guys can listen to us on YouTube, or you can go to Apple Podcasts and Spreaker to listen to this interview. And thanks again for, liking and comment, subscribing, all that fun stuff. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram. You get all the latest updates on new episodes, even funny videos that we put. Especially all that.
And
fun
also, if
stuff,
you're
so.
a wrestling fan, we have a Lucha Talk. We talk about wrestling also.
Yes, we have wrestlers on here, so don't worry. We're gonna do, but we're doing both. We're also putting out content for the fans that like MMA and boxing, all that fun stuff, but also wrestling too. So if you don't like wrestling, you can go look at boxing and MMA. If you don't like that, if you're a wrestling fan, you go watch our wrestling interviews. So it's a best of both worlds. You get all the sports and all the content.
Amazing content.
So,
Yep.
so that's gonna do it for us with my co-host Rich. I'm Alex. We see you guys next time, and thank you for listening and watching. We'll see you guys next time on Championship Online Podcast.
See you guys.